I were to tell you about a case where there is no physical evidence, no credible motive, and the little evidence that was presented was tainted, would you believe justice was served? A man on death row who's been dubbed as the Troy Davis of Arkansas. A case that reeks of racial injustice. A man who, in our opinion, has been awaiting justice for over a decade.
Tim Howard was an anomaly in southeast Arkansas, a black man who socialized mainly with whites. He married a white woman. His closest friends, Brian and Shannon Day, were white. On Saturday, December 13, 1997, an anonymous caller notified the sheriff's office for Little River County that blood was dripping out of a U-Haul truck parked on Howard's property. Police drove to the scene in Ogden, Arkansas. After breaking the padlock on the truck, deputies found the body of Brian Day. When officers drove to the Days' home to inform Shannon Day of her husband's murder, they found her dead as well. Trevor Day, the couple's 7-month-old son, was found in a zip bag in another room beneath a pile of clothes. 4 days later, police arrested Timothy Lamont Howard, a 28-year-old with no prior convictions. They charged him with the Days' murders and with the attempted murder of their young son, Trevor.
In December 1999, 2 years after Howard's arrest, the jury quickly found him guilty. He was sentenced to death for the murder of the Days and the attempted murder of their son, Trevor. Tim Howard has always said that he did not murder the Days, nor did he attempt to murder their son. Although he still had the right to appeal, this is the place where Howard was sent to await execution, Varner's Supermax Prison in Grady, Arkansas.
Special Justice Mike Kennard described why Tim Howard's conviction was warranted.
In compliance with Arkansas Supreme Court Ruling 4-38, the record has been examined for adverse rulings objected to by Howard but not argued on appeal, and no prejudicial error is found. In sum, in light of the physical and substantial circumstantial evidence presented to the jury who determined his guilt and recommended his sentence, we cannot say that the trial committed any error in this case. Accordingly, we find no reversible error in the trial court's ruling. We affirm the trial court on all points in Howard's judgment of conviction.
On the dissenting side, the justices offered their opinion about Mr. Howard's case. Justice Robert L. Brown stated,
The critical question for this court to resolve is whether the evidence was sufficient to convict Howard for the murder of Shannon Day. I do not believe it was. Surely it was not forceful enough to compel a conclusion one way or the other beyond suspicion or conjecture. For that reason, I respectfully dissent. I would reverse Howard's conviction for Shannon's murder and Trevor's attempted capital murder and the death sentence as well. I would remand this case for sentencing solely on Howard's conviction for the capital murder of Brian Day.
Likewise, Justice Ray Thornton echoed his colleague's position.
I agree with Justice Brown's dissent, concluding that there was not sufficient evidence to convict the appellant of the murder of Shannon Day and the attempted murder of Trevor Day, and the appellant's conviction for the murder of Brian Day was very thin. Even if the evidence, considered in the light most favorable to the state, was sufficient to submit to the jury the question of appellant's guilt of the murder of Brian Day, the trial was flawed by errors, which in my view require a new trial on the charges relating to Brian Day.
Finally, Justice Jim Hannon offered the most critical remarks about the case.
It is with great reluctance that I must dissent and argue that a jury's verdict should be overturned. However, I am compelled to do so because the jury was left to speculations and conjecture which may not support a conviction. The demands of due process are not satisfied by suspicion, speculations, and conjecture.
Thus began another round of appeals by court-appointed federal public defenders. During that process, federal investigators discovered that prosecuting attorneys had not revealed important information at Howard's trial that might have changed the jury's verdict. The Attorney General Office accepted without conceding that the allegation of prosecutor misconduct is true and that evidence was withheld in the case. Therefore, an appeal was motioned to the state Supreme Court asking that Mr. Howard be granted a new hearing on this matter. The Supreme Court is expected to announce their decision soon. If the Supreme Court grants Howard a new hearing, he will be taken from his cell here, brought back here where a judge will decide whether he is to be granted a new trial.
The Political Science Academy at Philander Smith College believe that at the very least, Timothy Howard deserves a retrial. We created this documentary in order to challenge the state of Arkansas and to bring awareness to his case. Dr. Martin Luther King once said, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere."
Help us reverse the unjust conviction of Tim Howard. Be justice!